So this is a really pretty little building that we saw in Grottaglie in Puglia last year, and it's the one that I thought would be really good to paint with my students when we just did the recent art retreat over in the same place. So first of all, we started with a drawing. This was a traced drawing using trace down. I painted the blinds on the balcony first, just using yellow and magenta and just dropping some more orangey bits into it and pushing the paint to one side to make it look more interesting. I dropped a little bit of brown at the bottom whilst it was still damp, and also added the vertical stripes. For the vertical stripes, I added a tiny little bit of blue to the orange that I'd made just to desaturate it. I created the shadow colours using a little bit of magenta and blue to make a purple, and then desaturating it into a lovely grey with a tiny bit of yellow. Next, I painted the floor and the wall, and again this was just the same three colours that I always use, so I mixed a kind of a warm sandy base using yellow and orange and a tiny bit of blue. The most complicated part of this painting was the wheelbarrow, so I just took my time with it and built it up layer by layer until it got darker and darker, just trying to see those bigger shapes to make it flow a little bit better. Once I'd added a stone colour to the wall, I then went on to add the door in dark brown. We created the dark brown by mixing up an orange, a very red orange, and then adding a little bit of blue to it and a little bit of black. And then I continued to add browns into the windows. Now that wash of yellow that you can see there, or very pale yellow on the wall, is very useful because when you add the darker layers like you can see here, you can allow just chinks of that yellow just to pop through. And here you can see that I've just added some brickwork and some more details as well, such as shadows around the doors and the slats. Next, I thought, well, I better tackle these steps. Now, the area is absolutely famed for its ceramics, but the ceramics on the steps was so complicated that I just decided to let one colour run into the next, just inspired by the colours that I'd seen on the steps. The shadows and the painting of the bougainvillea were key to making this piece work. The bougainvillea was a lot of fun to paint. I started off with my light saturated greens and then started darkening them down and getting darker and darker and more desaturated. Finally, I just used pure magenta and popped a few little bougainvillea flowers on the top. I hope you enjoyed this quick little video. The two key things that I'd really like you to take away from this are that things come together right at the end, especially when you're talking about putting in shadows and flowers. And secondly, all of this can be achieved with just 4 colours. I'll explain more in future videos, but thank you for watching.